So there's actually a rivalry in Sioux Falls that nobody warns you about. East Siders versus West Siders. Once you pick a side, you very rarely will switch. And there is a reason for that. I'm Julie Roth, and I'm going to break down the difference between East Sioux Falls and West Sioux Falls. Plus, I'll introduce a little middle ground so that you can find your people and your vibe. If you want a head start, you can check out our custom neighborhood match GPT in the link below. It'll give you a small quiz so that you can figure out what areas might be a good fit for you and your family. If you live here in Sioux Falls, you already know that it's East versus West, and it's definitely a thing. I always joke with people that if you're once an East Sider, you'll always be an East Sider. Once a West Sider, always a West Sider. Obviously, that doesn't apply to everyone, but very rarely do people make the switch. The reason the switch is so hard is that there's a big difference in feel from East Side to West Side, and that's what makes this part of the process really fun. So let me break it down for you. I'm an East Sider myself, and I have always lived on the southeast side of Sioux Falls or down into Harrisburg, so I'm a little partial to the east side of Sioux Falls. But if you look at Sioux Falls on the east side, there's a couple of defining places. So up on the northeast corner, you're going to find that Highway 11 runs all the way north and south on the east side of Sioux Falls. So that northern corner is Brandon Valley School District. Brandon Valley School District is definitely desirable, and that has really bolstered some big growth on the east side. Up in that northeast corridor, we're going to find a lot of new construction neighborhoods, houses ranging from mid price point up into the luxury area. We have the Sanctuary, which is a new area with rolling hills up there. We have a lot of the areas right outside of the Brandon Valley schools that house some of our more luxury homes. So into Sioux Falls, past Highway 11, you're going to run into what we call Hilltop area. Now, this is a starter price range area. It's definitely got that hilltop vibe because there's definitely some sway to the land. And in this area, we have some unique lot sizes, entry-level prices, and some unique character. As we follow that direction a little farther south, we'll get into some of the most desirable areas. If you're looking for charm, mature trees, the Old Orchard and Putt Hill area tend to be that more luxury, high-end neighborhood, but they were built in like the 50s and 60s, so they have a ton of character, and people definitely love these areas. You get a little bigger yard size as you get into those areas, and people love that as well. Taking it back out a little further east, past Highway 11 into that 41st Street, 26th Street area, we have a little bit more entry-level price point housing. So we have townhouses, twin homes, single family. We're ranging from the entry-level 300,000 price range all the way up into probably close to the $1 million mark in some of those areas. So I think that those neighborhoods tend to be a little more cookie cutter. You get very definitive looks from the different builders that are over in those neighborhoods, and the covenants and restrictions in those areas tend to be a little stricter, so you can't do as much with your outside of your home, your yard, things like that. So as we move further south, as we cross 57th Street and south on the east side, we're actually in the Harrisburg School District. And the Harrisburg School District is also very desirable, but that neighborhood really didn't start to grow until about 20 years ago. So the homes in this area are definitely newer than those in Central Sioux Falls, and they tend to be in that more higher price point. I think that a lot of times we see the developments that have, twin homes and some HOA neighborhoods, but then building out from there, we have a lot of very beautiful homes as we get down into that Harrisburg area. So as you can see, there's a lot of variation on the east side of Sioux Falls, and it definitely has grown a ton over the years. One of the things I'll point out about the east side is that it feels slower. And the reason it feels slower is that there isn't as much commercial growth that's happened on the east side. Now, with Highway 100 that'll be curling through that area, we will definitely see more growth. But as of right now, we have a little pocket up on the northeast side that has Walmart, Target, our Dolly Farms area that draws some of that commercial business, restaurants, and things like that. But as you come down that eastern corridor, there's not a lot of activity. And so it just feels a little slower pace, and people really enjoy that. A little less traffic, a little quieter, and it's really where I prefer to stay. Unpopular opinion, probably. Okay, so heading into the west side of Sioux Falls, we definitely have seen more commercial growth in this area. I would say in the 41st and Louise area, that's where our mall is. That's where a lot of shopping, restaurants, things like that tend to be located. And so in my opinion, this area is full of energy. There's a little bit more traffic, and there's a lot more to do on the west side. So if that's your vibe, then maybe west side is for you. I think it's interesting how the west side has grown, because if you look at the northwest corridor of Sioux Falls, I think that will be the next area we see a lot of growth, because it's pretty quiet in that area. So there is a lot of new construction that's going on the west side. You definitely see pockets of growth around the schools is really where we've seen it. The west side is interesting because you have a lot of different school districts that it touches, like West Central, Tri-Valley, Sioux Falls, and then down into the T school district. So you definitely get a wide variety of draw in those areas. We have seen a large boom on the west side of townhouses, twin homes, and smaller, more entry-level housing that's gone on that west corridor. Some people assume with all of the townhouses and things like that that have popped up on the west side that there isn't luxury living, but that's not quite true. There are definitely some pockets on the west side that have a little more high-end feel, and those are tucked into what's called Skunk Creek area, where there's some older homes that are definitely larger. They're probably about 20, maybe 30 years old at this point, but some nice, interesting architecture, larger lot sizes up there. And then surrounding some of the schools in that central area, we definitely see a little more high-end as well. So the west side also houses our country clubs. So there's 2 country clubs on the west side of Sioux Falls, and surrounding those areas, the growth has been quite interesting. That's a little bit older, and there are some really beautiful pockets of homes that are tucked in that area as well. Architecturally, the west side leans towards ranch homes, split foyers, and then they usually have 2 or 3 stall garages. I would say that a lot of the growth on the west side happened within the last 10 to 15, maybe 20 years. And so you do see some of those areas starting to turn over quite a bit. So quick breakdown and summary of the west side is that you have a lot of variety. There's a little bit more energy, fast-paced, and more traffic here on the west side. I would say that there is a good range of mid-range price point, practical floor plans, and convenient shopping and dining within a minute's notice. So a lot of people are drawn to that west side corridor. It's easy to say that newer is better, but sometimes older has more charm. So it depends on what you're really looking for in a home, whether you may choose the east or the west side. Okay, let's talk about the middle ground, or the wild card, which is our 57108 zip code. This is in the Harrisburg School District, but it's very split, and if you ask one person, they'll say they're central, other sides will say they're west side or east side, and there is a huge difference. In this area, we definitely see pockets of luxury homes that are in that like 10 to 20-year-old time frame, larger lots, starting to get some more established tree lines, and these are definitely some of the more desirable neighborhoods in that southern side of Sioux Falls. There's also a lot of new construction that's happened in this southern corridor, and it's a good mix of twin homes, townhouses, single family, ranging from entry level all the way to that luxury price point. So there's definitely a draw to that southern side of Sioux Falls. So as you can see, there is a big difference between east side and west side, but sometimes people don't quite know that. So I'll tell you a little story about one of my clients. They currently lived on the west side. They'd been there for several years. They were very comfortable, but they had outgrown their home and were looking for a little bit better school district. When we talked, they said, we're open to any area of Sioux Falls. So we put together a list, west side, east side, south side, all over Sioux Falls. And as we were looking at more east side options, they kept saying, oh, where is this grocery store? Or where is this that we usually go to? And they were having a really hard time wrapping their heads around the different vibe and feel of that east side. So ultimately, they did decide to stay on the west side of town and just upgrade homes into something a little bit larger and in a more established neighborhood. So all that to say that you definitely sometimes are either an east sider or a west sider. It's very rare that I have someone who moves from the way west to the way east and is happy about that move. I'll break down a couple of myths for you. On the east side, some people think that it's all cookie cutter homes, but that's definitely not true. We see a lot of custom builds on the east side. We see beautiful areas like Tut Hill and Old Orchard that have a ton of character, and rolling hills. So there are some cookie cutter neighborhoods, but there's also some beautiful charm as well. And on the west side, we have the myth that I hear people talk about is that there's no luxury options on the west side. That also isn't true. There is a new pocket up on the west side that is housing some really beautiful homes that back up to some drainage areas and creeks. There's also some older neighborhoods that are really tucked in on the west side that have some very high-end homes as well. There's definitely a large variety on the west side and the east side of Sioux Falls. I know we've talked a lot about east side versus west side, but at the end of the day, you need to find the vibe and the feel that you like, that feels comfortable for you in the school district that you want, but then focusing on the home and making sure that it checks all of the boxes. Maybe you're looking for a lot of natural light. Maybe you're looking for a certain floor plan or feel. Maybe you're looking for storage. All of those things come into play when we're looking for homes. So it doesn't always have to be east versus west, but finding a home that truly fits your family's needs is the most important part. And if you've decided that maybe east and west aren't the best option for you and you want to get outside of Sioux Falls, check out my next video about the suburbs that are right outside of Sioux Falls. Thanks for following along with me, and I'll see you in our next video.